GM, everybody. Happy holidays and happy 2026 coming. We're excited to bring you episode 100. This will be our year-end episode as well, so pretty big one. We'll have three guests coming on. And as episode 100, guys, I mean, we wanted to see where it all started 3 years ago. It was a different world. It was the deep bear market. It doesn't feel maybe too different, but we're looking at some of the prices back then, and they were pretty different.
Yeah, for context, I think the Study Lads podcast started July 28th, 2023. And when we started, Bitcoin was at 30K, ETH was 1900, and we see all these altcoins here still on a much lower. I feel like some of these alts are lower today than it is now. But I guess you can kind of see like the theme, right? Like, Bitcoin up 3x, ETH up maybe 50%. Some of it's doing okay still, but yeah, it's crazy to think that we started at these prices. We were not feeling that good at the time, but I feel like we've done really well in the past 2.5 years, and we made
And
it
look at
smart.
look at everything past Tron, which has also done well. But if you look at Polygon, Litecoin, Polkadot on,
Wow.
I mean, I guess Bitcoin Cash has done okay, but Shiba Inu, bunch of that stuff that hasn't done amazing. And I think like one of the themes is that there just are not that many great digital assets of quality yet. And one of the things we want to maybe look forward to in 2026 is how do we get better quality assets that can do well? Because I've been like seeing silver and palladium on my newsfeed over the last few days, and the numbers are just like all-time high, ripping off faces. It's clear that there is liquidity out there, and it's just needing maybe like some kind of more fundamental aspect than our coins have had.
Yeah, I saw some tweet that said if you held silver for the past week, you've outperformed holding ETH for like the past 4 years or something. Those tweets are always really like kind of funny. Yeah, like what's it gonna take? Like, why hasn't people bought Bitcoin yet? Isn't it digital gold?
Yeah, Jordy, I mean, just to double click on that, it's interesting, right? Like gold, I mean, Bitcoin shouldn't need more of a fundamental reason if gold is doing so well, right? I completely understand the alt complex of why that's been lagging, but Bitcoin, that was, it's supposed to be the one thing that's our digital gold that thrives in times like this. And I don't know, I'm kind of starting to wonder if the alts are actually holding Bitcoin down, because like the sentiment that we have in the rest of the crypto space is so negative right now that it makes it a little harder to even buy Bitcoin if you think the rest of it is really just not going to perform well.
I mean, it is kind of bullish that we are having some of like the huge whales, sell their tokens. You always want the average price and the distribution to be wider and the average price to be higher. And when this happens, even though it's very annoying to wait months and months for this to like flush out, it is like very bullish for that next leg, because ultimately, people are always going to sell if they're up 1000x, and you want people to, reset the clock. And, I always knew that was going to be part of any process higher. It's a healthy process higher to go through this, but it is frustrating given that, the real gold is doing well. And we got Peter Schiff, running laps
Victory
around.
lap.
Yeah. But let's see, the other thing, of course, is the quantum background, which started being talked about. And I think, we said it before, like it's kind of good that those conversations are happening now, and getting some preparation going, because there is like a good dev community that can start thinking about this problem and addressing it. And it's better that they're doing this instead of, spending their time on inscriptions and all those like random things that we had going on Bitcoin.
Are you worried about quantum, Jordy, or do you just think it's just FUD and prices down, so people are finding reasons?
I'm worried about people being worried, right? Like that's kind of my job. It's like, what are people going to be thinking about? And I think it's gonna probably like break into the consciousness of the public a little bit more as we kind of go into the next few years. But I have to balance that with the fact that Bitcoin does seem very undervalued compared to these other assets. And I think Dim was saying before that there's just so much being traded now at these levels that it's still unlikely that we kind of break down, into the 70s, given how much has already been absorbed here. I don't know, Dim, how do you see the Bitcoin chart?
Yeah, I think it's definitely noteworthy that uh, in terms of point of control, in terms of volume being traded since all-time highs, this is the level 87 and a half, where most volume has been traded. I think that kind of at least locally decreases the chances that we get a fat break and loss of that level. You might have, kind of deviation or something, but that's really like the mean price where there's agreement by participants that is fair value. And I think what we're looking for now is a reason to break out of that. And I think there are many reasons that are where that would allow us to break out of that. And the most key one is kind of technicals. Like the complete apathy is just palpable. And I think it really doesn't take much at all for Bitcoin to just trade into the 90s again and sustain them for a while.
It has seemed like we're getting a BART every day, though, right? Like as soon as we get back to 90, 91, and then we just immediately retrace it. If you look at like a
I
Yeah,
need to ask
Probably.
about this, Jordy, because all the sentiment when that happens, the tweets are all, "This is happening because of 1010. Some market maker got carried out. There's no one to market make." Is that the reason we would be seeing something like this, or is it something else going on?
not in Bitcoin, no. I mean, those things might be, seen in some smaller alts, but not in Bitcoin. And yeah, I mean, I've been trying to trade the range, but then I'll buy more at 87, and then as soon as I start just selling a couple clips at 90, it'll just like fully BART, and then you're like, oh man, I barely got like off like 10% of my position, and then you put on the 10%. So I've been able to like swing trade 10%, but I haven't been able to get like a proper chunky, because I am expecting that we do break upwards at some point. So I'm keeping very long, even at 90. Um, you look at things like silver and gold, and it's clear that people are looking to hyper gamble and to buy breakouts, and breakouts cause excitement, and the news flow will kind of get more people in. There was an article, I think it got thousands of likes, that probably most of us at least have seen on Twitter, which we can put the link up here, but it's talking once again about people just want to have some chance of escaping the Maslow's trap, as it's put, where you have enough to survive, but you don't have enough to thrive, and you're constantly being inundated with Instagram and Twitter stories of people doing better than you. I think this one hit home for a lot of people because it's not the first time we're talking about this, but it's sort of putting in pretty stark terms why this AI anxiety is overriding a normality that used to exist, where you would just try to do well in your job. Dim, you read this article. What were your thoughts on it?
yeah. I think the most interesting part is that uh, casinos create a sense of agency somehow, which is counterintuitive for people. I love that line. And in a world where people feel completely lost, that's really the way to, escape the matrix. And I think, crypto has been the market for that. I think we're entering into an even more hyper financialized kind of world through prediction markets and stuff, and that's only gonna proliferate. And so, yeah, I don't know. I guess what do you own there? You either need to bet as well and get some of that conviction and try to make money being part in the casino or own the casino.
I have a hard time like talking about this topic because the guy says in there how the people who tell you that hyper gambling is not good, fuck those guys. Not like fuck those guys, but they're like, those guys have already made it, and it's easy for them to talk from their perch of like financial security and say like, oh, you guys, be responsible. And like, okay, so fair enough. But growing up, I've experienced this like fake agency. I think I put my first sports. So in Cyprus, sports betting is like it's a national pastime. There's not much else to do, and there's not a lot of like high paying jobs. And I would say that I've seen this like decades ago. I think when I put my first sports bet on, they let me put it on. I was like maybe like 13 or something. I went to like the sports
Oh,
book
wow.
and started like betting like maybe it was like a few dollars at the time on like Champions League games. But you do get this like fake feeling of agency that you can somehow beat the odds, or that better, this player is good. And so your mind starts to play tricks with you. And you know in the meantime, I've like hung out with a lot of like Chinese high rollers that love baccarat. And it's the same thing where like you don't actually like really have that much agency, but you get to bet on bank versus player,
Yeah.
and you start just like finding patterns, or they start like writing down, and they think they see something. And like you're not seeing shit, like it's all it's all just like it's all against you. But
Yeah.
I think what matter is, again, getting back to like, it's not about if I'm worried about quantum, it's what other people are worried about. It's just, if people feel that there is agency there, then this explains why the sports betting boom has gone crazy. And we talked about these prediction platforms. Ultimately, like they're mainly just regulatory arbs for people to do more of this kind of betting.
Damn, Cyprus is really early. We got Binance launching Binance Junior to get the kids into trading. But they hooked you up early, Jordy. Yeah. But hey, look,
Need Polymarket
where we got
Junior
you
now.
now. Yeah, we need Hyperliquid Junior, Lighter Junior. Need all these gambling platforms.
But in our circles, we hear a lot about this hyper gambling financial doomerism. But when I talk to normal people, this just isn't part of the conversation. A lot of people I know are excited about AI. They're excited about their careers that aren't in crypto, are not concerned about AI replacing them. They obviously they could be wrong, but I do think in crypto we're always looking for the end of times. Like with Bitcoin, you're looking for the end of the US dollar. You're looking for fiat to collapse. You're looking for a new system. We're looking to rewrite the financial system. So I think we're always sort of like peaked to look for these problems in society, when for me the base case is things keep chugging along and it's okay. And I don't think the gambling is going to get out of control.
I think you're hanging out with the right people, Justin, that are
No,
measured like you. I feel like most of my friends are, they think if they have a fuck ton of conviction, it will pay. That the conviction itself is what will make, a bet pay off. Right. So I have so many friends that are just like all in the stock market, levering up, doing options and stuff like that. And they're super confident because of that conviction itself.
I think what you said is like very key, because we're seeing this stuff play out in crypto time and time again, where like people get very psychologically attached to their asset. Like if an asset is doing well for them, they get this conviction, and they're like, it's because I believed in Luna that I'm up like this much. And
Yeah.
but at this point, like most of these cults have done poorly. And I would say that the last remaining one was the hyperliquid cult, which because of like it had these like great characteristics of this like magic conception, and people just got like money out of nowhere, and it was just this magical thing. Obviously even that asset has struggled, and we'll talk about it a little bit with Vlad from Lighter in a little bit. But this concept of like just doing buybacks and buying tops because you're indiscriminately just buying hasn't worked out too well when the market turns, because the multiples get too big, they expand too much, you're pushing them to expand further. We've seen this with other good assets like Jupiter, for example, which also has large buybacks, where it just sort of overextends, goes way too high, and then like the pullback is very painful for the community who has this conviction and like is really trying to like believe in something. You want to believe in something, and that's been maybe like part of the reason why it's been depressing on crypto Twitter.
yeah, I feel like every time, or the hard lesson the past few years is whenever you believe in something, you just get wrecked. And then at some point people stop believing. And then at that point, like Twitter becomes toxic. Like we're entering this apathy phase where it's like, oh, like what do I even believe in anymore? I do think we'll get to the other side eventually, but who knows? You guys are optimistic. I'm more pessimistic, but we'll let the market do the talking for us.
Are you pessimistic ETH, or are you pessimistic like everything, or what are you doing?
I mean, I'm bullish Bitcoin. I'm pessimistic ETH, which means I'm pessimistic altcoins. I think if I'm bearish ETH, you can't be bullish any altcoin, right? Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I'll trade lighter. If it goes lower, maybe we can talk about that later with Vlad. But I don't know.
I don't think
Maybe-
that's true. Generally, there's so many coins right now that are moving by themselves, and they're not moving based on what ETH is doing. And I don't think that's been the story about ETH this year. Anyway, I mean, the case about Solana being that coin is more relevant in 2025 than ETH. I think that Solana is actually the risk proxy instead of ETH.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, maybe I'm being too harsh on ETH, but I don't know. I feel like maybe we can talk about it more when Thiccy comes on. I feel like Thiccy might have more interesting thoughts.
You'll be surprised. I think Thiccy has some interesting takes on the market right now, so we'll get him on. All right, so let's look at last year's predictions before we move on to next year's. I think we have a Grok conversation here that summarizes it. So, Justin, your predictions. What do you think? I mean, you did pretty well.
I think largely pretty good. Sol and ETH remain pretty flat throughout the year, mostly true. Clearly very wrong on point two. Monad bearishing doing well. That was completely wrong. I think the one I'm most proud of is the MicroStrategy related event will trigger the next bear market. Obviously, there's no event that has happened yet, although I do think it's still possible. But the premium to NAV turning negative are getting very close. I think I nailed. That was one of the big predictions I had end of last year, was that all of these dads have to die. And I think they're in the process of doing that. This was pretty non-consensus. Coinbase will launch its own token for Base Chain. They announced they're going to launch it, but obviously it hasn't launched yet, which I'm happy about. Stablecoins become the dominant narrative. That was definitely true. Polymarket emerges as a serious competitor to sports betting. Very true. And Democrats intensify anti-crypto stance. I think also true. So I'm really happy with these. I think they did well. I wish I played the market as well as I played the prediction game, but maybe there's a lesson in there.
Have Democrats intensified, or I given how pro Trump is, I wouldn't say that I'm seeing Democrats go full crazy on it. Obviously,
that's fair. Yeah, they've gotten quiet, but I think, one of my predictions for next year is that in 2026, this midterm year, one of their big campaign points is all of the corruption and scams in the crypto space that Trump has been a part of. So we'll see.
And then this BRICS, the BRICS nation, unfortunately, they haven't really gone after Bitcoin.
Yeah, this was wrong.
They're all after gold still, unfortunately. So that's being part of the issue.
Yeah, I missed this one, but this was completely wrong. Yeah, no Bitcoin strategic reserve conversation, and BRICS nations, you don't hear anything about the BRICS dollar anymore. So
I think we're unfortunately still too small to be a geopolitical, to be in that game theory phase where, the nations start thinking about exactly their strategy. I think it's still, maybe a 2x away from starting to be relevant in that aspect. Taiki, I see here you kind of nailed the first one. I mean, this is not exactly in the alt season. There was no alt season, but the ETH all-time high, that was kind of where exactly it hit.
My thesis has always been, once ETH hits new highs, you want to sell everything. Unfortunately, it didn't even go above 5K, so it was pretty
basically
tough,
did though. Let's
okay, yeah, we'll give it to the ETH maxis. It went to 5K, and then I predicted that everyone's going to call for 10K price targets, and then random things are going to pump, and then people's hopes and dreams are going to get crushed again. And
is it really that simple?
Yeah, it was that simple. I also made these predictions when it was AI season. With by the way, I checked the market cap of AI16Z. It's 2 million now.
Well, they migrated to a coin.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay,
I think it's done well today. It's up a lot.
Okay, never mind. But yeah, sometimes I look back on those coins and wow, I can't believe you believed on all these things. But anyways, yeah, the AI coins didn't really do much. The last 2 points is kind of stupid, but I feel like I got ETH right, so that's all that matters. I'm happy with
Yeah, I
it.
mean, Taiki, like this time last year, I think you were probably longing goat or like excited about goat, and like just think about how far, just think about how far away we are from that now. I mean, that feels like 10 years ago. It's like seems inconceivable that anyone would long that token anymore.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty good. Pretty
Yeah,
happy with
the whole
predictions.
AI sector, we've been waiting for the resurgence of it. It hasn't happened. I don't know if we need like even more of a technological leap forward on that side before we get it. I think the WorldCoin thesis that I had, it's not done worse than other altcoins, but I saw a week ago that Sam Altman and uh the crew behind WorldCoin did like a presentation, and they're still so proud of their app that they've done, and they're integrated into Tinder now. Like if you use your World ID on Tinder, it'll like verify you that you're a real person and you're of age and all this stuff. um I don't know if like I think it's like Tinder Japan, so it's still like a pretty small market. I
Oh,
think they need
Taiki.
to go after. Yeah. Taiki,
I
you
can
can
disagree with
use.
this.
Taiki's married. Taiki's he's off the market, Justin.
I'm off the
Oh,
market.
So
yeah. But just for market research, though.
just the
market research.
WorldCoin research.
No, I mean, Jordy, it's like Taiki has been saying for a while, right? The tech is amazing, but the coins are not. And so we have to redesign these things.
Yeah. What about your predictions, Jordy? How did they pan out?
I don't know if like these are exactly my predictions. I don't know if Grok is like hallucinating. He may have. Did I say that
A severe bear market hits.
there was going to be a severe bear market? I don't know.
I mean,
Yeah.
you should just claim your victory. This has been pretty bad, right?
It's been pretty severe.
Yeah, I mean, ETH did pull the move that we spoke about. I mean, literally the ETH BTC ratio after bottoming did like a clean like 2.5x in a very short amount of time, and that's now it's found its stable point now. It seems like it's forever pinned at like 0.033, but we did get a move there. We will see the midterms next year, and I'm curious to see how much of a topic crypto is going to be during that period. But yeah, let's check if Grok is hallucinating. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about these pieces. And then I guess we had Hasibon. He supposedly said that agents are gonna act as tireless KOLs. I mean, look, we have had.
I do remember. He definitely said that. That is real.
Did AIXBT?
Yeah,
we haven't had much of this AIXBT. Like no one really talks about any AI influencer at all. But my responses, and I think other people's responses, I saw Charles Hoskinson complaining about this, saying he's leaving Twitter, but the responses are like super heavy on bots these days, and they're getting a little bit more sophisticated with the responses. Like I sometimes like have to check their profile, and once I see that there's no like followers that we share and stuff like that, then I kind of assume that they're bots. But I think like in a year they probably get even better. I don't know what the purpose of these bots is, like what exactly they're trying to do by sibling these accounts, but I'm sure whoever's spending all that effort has some plan for it. One of the interesting things that I've been looking at this week was the exploit that happened on the Flow blockchain. So there was a exploiter who managed to print tokens, which is never a good thing. They print the native token of the chain. So I think it's supposed to have 1.5 billion tokens, and he printed 43 billion tokens. And I saw that there was a tag on his address that said big holder. So if you went to the blockchain, it said like big fish. So yeah, we have this exploiter who printed 40 something billion tokens, so 40 times what's supposed to exist, and the FlowScan Explorer gave him a tag of big fish with an exclamation. And I would say it probably deserves at least 3 exclamations if you have 40 times the entire tokens of the whole chain. And things got a bit chaotic because the exploiter did manage to extract whatever liquidity was on chain. They sold into the LP pools. They bridged out some. You always want to go to ETH and Bitcoin, I guess, and that's what they did. So they managed to get about $4 million worth of those tokens drained out. And then the blockchain got halted. Once they realized what was going on, and then things got very interesting because I think the initial plan of this uh, reaction was to roll back the chain, which we've seen in a couple other chains, obviously with Ethereum early on, and other chains when they've done a rollback. The problem with doing a rollback is that there's already a lot of activity that's happened, and there's maybe the deposits happened on centralized exchanges. That starts to create like a huge mess for all the other partners. And so we had Alex Smirnov from dBridge talking about how the bridges and the sexes and dexes and everybody starts to have to clean up this mess of rolling back the chain. There's tokens that have been deposited, there's double balances. So he, I kind of like what happened here. He wrote a public response saying that they should not do a rollback. He urged them not to do this rollback, and he gave an example of how this will create a problem. And I think it's for the best, but they actually decided to have some discussions with them, and he was able to change the plan. And then from my understanding, they did not roll back the chain and instead have just frozen. They've continued the blocks, but they've just frozen in place anyone related to the exploiter. And on the one hand, I don't want to get into the whole centralization, decentralization thing. I think we're all past that. We all kind of understand that if there's an exploit and you have a way to centrally fix it, you just do it. At this point, there's no decentralization theater. I guess it's interesting to see what happened to the price. I've been trying to think if there's a trade to do here. It did fall from 17, 18 cents down to about 9 or 10 cents. So it fell about 50%. And, it's unclear if this is just a sentiment thing or if there's actually more supply that's gone out. Maybe there's a little bit extra supply that's been created. We're kind of waiting to see, but
it's funny because we began the episode talking about hyper gambling and stuff, and no one would think to long flow before the exploit. But now that they are exploited, it's whoa, do I buy this here? It's what is this chart? What does flow even do? Does do they have 5 NFTs on there?
So I think they might have pivoted. I'm not familiar, but I was on their Twitter when we were researching this, and it said they're the DeFi chain. So
they're the DeFi chain. What? What is going on?
Yeah, it's crazy.
There was kind of an interesting opportunity. This is kind of where my knowledge of perpetual markets and funding rates and stuff like this gets used, where the perpetuals of the token kept trading, right? It doesn't matter if you stop the chain, right. the assets perpetuals don't need to stop. So I kept trading, but it has an oracle price, and you can't move tokens between exchanges. So you had OKX trading at 13 cents, you had Binance trading at 10 cents. The oracles are obviously very confused as to what the real price is. And then the perpetuals are, starting to have some blend of those, and there's a funding rate. There was an opportunity to go long and get a lot of funding, and the funding went to hourly funding on Binance, and was paying quite a large amount. So I did end up going long about $1 million of flow on Binance Perp, and getting paid a good amount on funding, a very decent amount. And yeah, we'll see how it plays out.
It's crazy how perps have gamified the whole token game, right? The token is irrelevant, right? It becomes a funding game, a supply control game. It's so interesting. It's obviously you're not longing flow you're longing for the funding.
You're longing that structurally there's a reason why the perpetual is more of a long than a short, and that can be for different reasons. But generally, when you have control of the chain, I did expect that they would have some solution that would not like wreck the token, because that's their priority. And it's different than, in the past we've had like UX Link had a similar exploit, but they don't have their own chain maybe. So, if you're on Ethereum and you can't like roll back, or you can't freeze the chain if you're on somebody else's blockchain. But if you're on your own blockchain, then one of the benefits is, if somebody exploits it, then you can be pretty heavy handed as to what you do about it. And we saw this with Blast in the past, and other L2s.
Blast from the past.
Blast from the past.
Oh my God. I remember. Wait, when did Blast launch? Was it this year?
No, it must have been last year.
Okay. No. When Blast first got announced, I was like, yo, like, I'm bullish Blast, L2 with native yield. That makes so much sense. And now we're just like, we can't believe it. Another L2 again.
All right. We have our first guest ready to join. Dim, you want to introduce our guest?
Yeah, let's do it. So for the 100th episode, we wanted someone, I'm generally lucky to call a friend. So beyond being one of the smartest guys I know in the market, he's who I also talked to off camera and traded alongside for the past year. He's someone who's made my thinking better in the markets. I think he's a phenomenal researcher, investor, and a better friend. So Citrini, welcome to the pod.
Thanks so much
Thanks
for
for
having
joining.
me, Kim. I would say that you are one of the best crypto investors that I know, but you introduced me to so many other people that also contend for that title. So
I'm glad. So let's kind of get into it. We're going to talk about your prediction piece a little bit, but do you want to kind of kick off by talking to us about where you think we're macro-wise? That's very, very important for us in crypto.
yeah,
We own some longs and we need to see if we're going to get liquidated before year end.
it's interesting right now. Crypto for a while has kind of been this like macro release valve, but it's very difficult to imagine a more supportive macro environment than the one we have right now. Fiscal's like full tilt. The Fed is, cutting, expected to cut more. The economy is like relatively strong on the high end, and crypto has kind of entered this period of underperformance that I would say maybe has to do a little bit with the reflexivity of the asset class, and kind of how the more that crypto has embraced becoming a macro asset class, the more it's become subject to macro flows. Whereas when you get the ETF, when MicroStrategy has this huge run, when you just become increasingly subject to the idiosyncrasies of those flows. So it's something, this divergence that we've seen between this macro environment classically, let's say anytime between since Bitcoin was incepted and a year ago, would be a pretty excellent environment for crypto in general. But recently we've seen this underperformance that I haven't like paid super close attention to, but I would say like the macro environment in general for risk assets is pretty amazing right now. Like there's and the most supportive aspect is that when you look at like analyst revisions to the next 12 months, and you look at like where the price targets are for the S&P 500, we keep building these walls of worry, and that's not typically what you see when the cycle's like at risk. So yeah, it's a great environment for risk assets. With the crypto stuff,
So
I think more idiosyncrasies there.
as we say on the show, who do we blame for this? What do you think the reason is for that lagging performance?
Michael Saylor. I mean, like I'm sure you can't like listen. I don't know if any of you guys are friends with him or anything. I think he's one of like the greatest financial engineers of our time. He's like pulled off something that's like pretty amazing. But I'm sure even he would admit that the structure has introduced increasing reflexivity to the overall asset class, right? Where the closer that MicroStrategy trades to net asset value, or even below it, the more of that negative feedback loop you get. And then the same thing with the ETF, right? It's the same thing where you get both sides of the sword, and the more when we went to when you had the Citrini Summit, the most interesting thing to me was I showed up and I had, I've owned crypto since like 2015. The first time that I bought Bitcoin was to use it on the Silk Road, right? So like, but the interesting thing was when you had the Citrini Summit, so many people that I was talking to were talking about putting TradFi assets on chain. And the more that happens, and the kind of more this locked in ecosystem of money that's typically just held on chain has access to other, asset classes, right? So the more exciting that stocks get versus crypto, it's just another vector for reflexivity. So I'm sure it'll mean revert eventually at some point, but right now it seems pretty entrenched.
It is so interesting to get these assets on chain that might be better assets, as we talked about. Maybe having Nvidia on tokenized stock is going to be something people want to leverage more than Polygon or some other like chain. And
well, when you put it that way,
it
seems so obvious.
Yeah, and the one of the other reasons, Justin, is probably just like we've had Haseeb talk about this, but like some of the games, like these meme coin games, are so like the edge is too high against the player. The chance of making it against insiders is very low. And the Trump coin was the one launch where it was big enough that a lot of people still were able to be like quote unquote early, but like that was a rare exception, and people kind of chased that for the rest of the year. A lot of the people that I know who made money on that Trump coin just kind of slowly bled it back over, trying to get that first feeling of love from that first romantic night and trying to chase that down, and just never came again. It was never the same after that one night.
I mean, I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but when Dim and I first met, we were on a trip in Argentina, and I'm sat down next to him at this it's like a 20-person dinner, and you're talking a little bit. I find out he's a trader. I don't like follow crypto that closely, but he gets this look on his face, and I'm like, dude, I've been around traders for the past decade. Like, I know when someone is like, he's got his phone, he's like smashing by, and I'm like, what do you got, dude? You seem pretty high conviction on this. And he looks me dead in the eyes and he goes, the president just launched a meme coin. And I'm like, no, he fucking didn't. Come on, dude. And he's like, no, he did. Look. And I look at it and I'm like, hey, I don't have any crypto, but I'm going to wire you some money. Can you please do this? And then the next morning he messages me. He's like, hey, we're up 2,500%. I totally agree. Like I've seen that too, where stocks are kind of, unless like you're talking very specifically about like quantum or whatever, but stocks are kind of rigged in your favor, right? Like you have this huge passive bid behind you. You have the retirement bid. You have like, the fact that there's like the fundamental kind of, as the economy does better and people spend more money, the stocks tend to do better. And the casino is just extremely PvP, right? So it's possible that maybe there's like some degree of disillusionment that has kind of bled into, and it's kind of magnified by the increasing availability to money that would otherwise just typically be reserved for these asset classes, that's able to access some of the more PvE assets.
Citrini, let's talk about your predictions for next year, because I think most of our viewers are really going to want to at least understand what the macro landscape and what the major themes might look like. And you spent a lot of time building this amazing report. I'd love to have you maybe kind of give us some of like your top 2 or 3 predictions.
Totally. So basically the consistent theme that comes throughout this, as we went through these 26, except for a couple like silly off the cuff ones, like about space, the consistent theme is AI has gotten to the point where for a long time the discussion was dominated by the idea of AI not having ROI or AI not being good enough to do certain things. If you spend a lot of time with any of these products, you realize that the problem now is not that AI is incapable of doing things, it's that people aren't aware of what AI can do. Like the technology has progressed. It's just it hasn't been adopted to the appropriate level yet. So I think in 2026, that's going to drive a lot of the kind of equity themes we're going to see, like the implications of companies starting to replace people with artificial intelligence and what that looks like, and will we get an environment where stocks continue to go up while employment goes up, and how does this like K-shaped economy where the upper echelon continues to do extremely well and the lower echelon that doesn't own assets continues to do worse. There's a lot of stocks in the market that have been treated like AI losers that probably are on like a decade-long horizon, but over the next 2 or 3 years have this huge opportunity to replace some of their workforce with AI. And then the other kind of common thread throughout the ideas is the kind of rolling supply shortages that we've seen in various aspects of not just the AI supply chain, but kind of electrification, robotics, everything else. We've seen like gold obviously has done extraordinarily well. So is copper, right? And copper is like so many of these commodities have gone through such severe like short cycles that they didn't build any new capacity. So now if you come to them and you say, hey, I need some lithium, or like, hey, I need some copper, they're not going to like immediately go out and build new capacity. They're going to say, okay, you can buy what we have, and then, you can pay more. So for like copper, lithium, aluminum, as copper goes up, so, the switching costs kind of mandate that aluminum goes up as well.
I mean, Citrini, it sounds like, like especially looking at the last week of metals prices, we're lamenting, but, metals are the new shit coins. People are just like speculating on these, just speculate on shit coins. And I remember like talking to like a genius trader I know like years ago. And last cycle, it was like, oh, why is XRP up today? And he was like, yeah, just because it hadn't pumped yet. So that was the thesis. It was like, well, this one hadn't pumped yet. And like, if I ask you, like, why is palladium up 10%? You might just be like, yeah, well, it hadn't pumped yet. Gold and silver and everything else went up. So,
yeah, well, it's hysterical. Like, I really hope that there's somebody that's listening to this podcast that like started mining that has a stroke when you say that metals are the new shitcoin. Like, like gold hasn't existed for 10 millennia. Like, I mean, there's fundamental kind of connections. Like, as copper goes up, aluminum does go up too, just because you can switch the mines, right? But yeah, exactly right. But like palladium, platinum, those are in the commodity cycle. I've always thought, like, with stocks, you typically never want to own the quote unquote catch up trade. Like it's typically never a better idea to own the second best player just because it hasn't gone up as much as the first. Like, you don't want to own AMD instead of Nvidia typically. But with metals and commodities, that does tend to be the case, where it's like, earlier this year, it's like gold goes up 70% year to date, and it's like, silver's still flat, and then you just buy that. So yeah, it worked. It also has to do with the fiscal, like global fiscal impulse, right? There's no such thing as like fiscal discipline anymore. It doesn't exist. No, if a country can spend, it does, and that's great for commodities.
I think like one last question that our viewers really want to like look forward to is, you talk about fiscal, but also there's monetary, and Powell is going to be replaced in May. I think that part's clear. We're still waiting for, exactly who it's going to be. But obviously, like, Trump is hoping that whoever it's going to be is going to be juicing things going into midterms. Any predictions there? Like, is that liquidity wave going to come, or is it going to be overhyped? And are we going to crash? What do you think happens around that time when Powell gets replaced?
Yeah, I think that basically the dark horse candidate would be Steve Miron, and right now, like Chris Waller would be like the kind of establishment, status quo kind of appointee. The interesting thing was how dovish Powell was at the last meeting, right? Like he is. It's not going to be the case where it's going to be easy for this new appointee to come in and then just like with reckless abandon cut rates because he can say that Powell kept them long. When the new guy gets in, it's gonna every meeting that Powell continues to be dovish makes it like less likely that the new guy can just come in and start cutting rates without losing the long end. So I think we pulled forward a lot of like the bullish impetus of like the Trump appointee kind of juicing the economy with monetary, but at the same time disinflation has pretty much continued. So we're like deeply in this Goldilocks environment, and I think like I would say monetary has gotten really, really not that important. I think that it's very easy, like considering the like 2022, everyone's got the scar tissue, but
would you say then like there's no free money liquidity coming from the Fed, but maybe Trump kind of keeps the gas on in terms of fiscal side just to make sure that stocks do well into midterms maybe.
Yeah, that's the like I would say if you're gonna choose what to focus on, fiscal is gonna be way more important this year than monetary is.
It's a good prediction. Citrini, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks
This
for
was a
having me,
great
man.
segment.
Of course.
You brought a breath of optimism for us, which is deeply appreciated. So thanks a lot, and I'll catch you soon.
Yeah, man. Hope to see you soon. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right, and we have our next guest ready. We have Vlad here from Lighter, which literally just TG'd some hours ago. Vlad, I don't imagine you got much sleep, but we appreciate you making it anyway. It must have been quite a night.
Yeah. Not many people on our team got much sleep, but I think it was overall pretty smooth. Everything worked with the token launch, and it was exciting to have it happen on Lighter. It was like exciting to see the order book fill up from the very beginning, and a lot of organic trading activity.
I mean, this has been like the big expected launch, I guess, going into the end of the year, and I think you wanted it to be this Christmas and New Year gift to all the users. I think at current prices, the airdrop is worth many hundreds of millions. I think upwards of $600-700 million. I think it's gone quite well. What are your impressions so far?
Yeah, we're happy to see the initial reaction for sure. I think we wanted to share kind of the vision for Lit and how that's going to work the upcoming year. We're going to roll out a lot of different features and integrations and use cases for the token. I think like in general, we kind of usually announce like the specifics once we ship them, but we did want to share the broad vision and then also to address the questions around the structure of the token. I mean, I think it is a bit unusual in the sense that we're launching directly from the US, which we can talk more about that as well, but and we're also very much aligned with the philosophy that value should accrue to the token holders. So
yeah, I'm curious about that because you announced that all value from any products built by Lighter and their services will all accrue to Lit holders, which is your token. And you said there's going to be a mix of buybacks and reinvesting in growth. I mean, how do you envision that structure? Are you looking at a traditional DAO model, which historically hasn't done well, or is Lighter, the team and the company, going to have a heavy hand on controlling where the resources and funds go? Can you just share a little bit more about your plans for the token and how you plan to distribute value?
Yeah, I think that we will operate it as the core team. I mean, I think that there's like there's a question of decentralization of the tech, right? And that I think that doesn't necessarily mean you need to kind of have a overly complex structure when it comes to governance and decentralization of that, right? So I think actually like having those decisions being made by the core team makes sense, and our goals are. This is kind of, I guess, the point of the incentive alignment too, right? Like our goals are exactly aligned with the goals of the broader ecosystem, and so I think it's actually kind of more efficient to make decisions that way, and then we'll focus, of course, on long-term growth, right? Like it's not like the goal isn't to like maximize the value of the token, tomorrow or a week from now. Like the goal is to use capital efficiently, and I think buybacks are like a really good mechanism to use, and we'll use it consistently, and we'll kind of have more to say about the specific ways we'll do that. But also there's going to be a lot of things to build, and putting capital to use into those that'll increase the ecosystem. Like, for example, new asset classes, right? Like real world assets. There's lots to build there. Like I think in general, right? Like I think when there's a really high return on investment on a new market opportunity, like it's good to use the capital instead of buybacks in that case, right? So I think both are good tools to use. And
That's like the interesting thing. I've been having a front row seat to both Hyperliquid and Lighter for the last year, and the two approaches are in some ways, similar, in some ways completely diametrically opposite. And I would say that, while Hyperliquid is sort of taking this like very neutral, maybe more like a DAO approach, or more of like a, anybody can suggest something and we'll vote, or, this kind of thing. I guess like Vlad, you've taken a more of a, we're building partnerships. We have our investors. We do have investors, and we're using them strategically for, getting access to, their products or their users in the future, or just like their strategic benefit. And as you said, you're launching from the US. You're kind of taking like a much more, partnership based approach rather than a neutrality approach. And I think both are very interesting, and we've seen the benefits of each. I guess the things that you've maybe like tried to learn from, you mentioned the buybacks. I mean, we've seen Hyperliquid, just kind of do consistent buybacks that are programmatic, that has like a benefit of it's predictable, right? It's like it's good, people can model it. But then on the other side, obviously, like for months when the market was hot, they were buying tokens, at $60, which, that same money could have bought multiples more tokens, during like what is now a much more quiet market. Are you seeing it kind of like more strategically around how you deploy your buybacks?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you can have an approach where you can be strategic about using capital for kind of building new things and for partnerships, and then the buybacks themselves can be timed strategically. Like, I think there's a lot of data we want to see for kind of the first few weeks of trading to better understand this market, and then we will kind of outline something that's I think you can have something that's that has predictability, but that's also strategic, right? That's not just
Like a ratio. Like, would you be down to formalize like a ratio between money that would be reserved for buybacks opportunistically, and some that would be reserved for growth?
Yeah, I think that's that approach makes a lot of sense to me, and I think after like the first few weeks of understanding how the patterns we see in this market, like we'll have a better sense of what the best ratio for that would be.
And before we close out the segment, I wanted to ask for Lighter holders or just people excited about what you guys are doing over the next 3 months. What should we be most excited for? What should we be looking out for? Any new products or categories you guys are launching?
Yeah, exactly. I think Jordy alluded to the fact that we're building a lot of things kind of internally, and one of those will be the mobile app, right? So I think that'll be something that a lot of traders have been waiting for, and we're already testing out, and I think that's going to come out in the coming weeks. So definitely stay tuned for that. And there are a couple of other exciting partnerships that we're not ready to announce today, but will come out in the coming weeks as well. And the other big thing will be kind of the Ethereum composability and sidecar. I think that there's a lot of work that we've been doing in the background on that, and there'll be kind of a very big unlock once that's done, and that'll be kind of rolled out in steps. But we're excited to share those details once they're done.
I think ultimately, like, people really want to see a way to get non-crypto users that are, maybe now trading CFDs in different countries, or, trading, maybe like in a way that fits Lighter, but like they're not used to trading on a crypto app, and trying to onboard those people. That's really the most exciting potential, I guess, like for growth. And I think you guys have so far executed really well on the crypto side, and it'll be cool to see how these next months go on potentially bringing in like new users as well. So I'm looking forward to watching that.
Okay, so I have two questions. They're pretty direct. You can navigate them as you like, but these are the questions that are coming from the group chats. Okay, from the users. So one of them is David Sachs still invested or has he divested? And the second one is, what's the current status of the relationship between Ladder and Robinhood?
Sure. I guess I'll take the second one first. I mean, Robinhood is. I mean, we've always been close to their team. Like, I think people know. I was one of their first advisors like 12 years ago. Vlad was an angel investor as well. So we've always kind of talked to their team about what we're building, what they're building. But more recently, like they've become a strategic investor, and but again, they're also very much aligned with the fact that the value accrual here is to the token, and the stuff we're building together is kind of very much in the DeFi camp, like tokenized stocks on Lighter, and then kind of other projects that we can't announce yet, but we'll announce soon. And I guess to your other point, David was very key to helping us kind of going. When we initially pivoted from AI to crypto, that was kind of 3 years ago, right? And he was very involved in helping us through that. And it's interesting that now he's in charge of a policy for both AI and crypto. So he's probably, from our perspective, like the best person to have that role. And I mean, as I think he's announced quite some time ago, like he did have to divest kind of his holdings in a bunch of these areas, including Lighter, but he's still somebody that we respect a lot, and we really appreciate his impact on the company in the early days.
Vlad, awesome. Thank you for coming on, and I know you've been up through the night. We'll let you get back to continuing the token launch, but we'll have you again next year and do a much more deep dive into some of the partnerships you guys are building, because I think it's very cool.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Vlad. All right, that was Vlad, and we have our last guest, the best guest of all, our original OG, Steady Lad is here, the Thickster, Thiccy the Thickster.
He was right the whole time.
He was right.
Good to see you there.
Good to see you, fellas. It's been a while.
It's been a while.
GCR defeated. Defeated. Unfortunately, Justin has to run off, but he's going to share some exciting news with us just before he goes. Justin, what's going on in your life?
Yeah. So I'm in Park City now. Over the last week, I got engaged, and I actually have to head out in the next 3 minutes. So I'm going to miss Thickster's segment. We're heading to an undisclosed warm location for New Year's, and then we'll be back to our regular scheduled programming. But I can't wait to watch this last segment. I know I've been waiting to hear what Thiccy had to say. Hopefully he's bullish. We'll see. But thanks, guys. It was a pleasure.
I got reminded of that pasta where the guy is like, I'm meeting a girl. It's a real girl. Okay, you guys won't understand. I have to go.
Exactly.
Cool.
Justin's a changed man. He sold all his ETH. Now he's engaged.
Getting my priorities right. But no, it's funny. I remember
when you finally sell ETH and everything looks so bright.
Yeah, the world is bright again. There's something to look forward to. Yeah. So here's to a good 2026, though. It's a pleasure. Hopefully, we'll do more episodes next year. And thank you guys for listening, and thank you guys for being awesome hosts. It's been a pleasure.
See you, sir.
Enjoy.
Bye, guys.
Bye. All right. I'm glad that the universe has not exploded now that, Thiccy and Dim are for the first time. This is the first time they're in the same screen, same episode.
First time we're speaking. That's true. I don't think we were spoken for. Maybe on Twitter, just change like a couple DMs.
There are rumors we were the same person just because we haven't been spotted in the same podcast.
Like in some ways, every time I was looking at the comments with Thiccy, it's the same thing with Dim. There's always like 10. I don't know if they're like gay or metrosexual or just like admiring, but there's always like at least 10 comments for both Thiccy and Dim talking about their jawline or their face, how beautiful they are. Like there's always like the fanboy. So now we have Chad squared here going on. So, welcome. And also, I would have to say, I don't know, Thiccy, if this is still true, but is it true that you are actually long the market? Is that you
What?
long crypto? Are you long crypto and Thiccy short?
What happened?
Depends on when this episode is airing. Is this live?
No, it's not live. It's not live.
Oh, okay. When will it be released?
Tomorrow.
Probably.
Before end of year, because I think that's probably what you care about.
Yes. I'm not sure yet if I'm long.
Okay, depends.
Fair.
He's in a
Depends on when it
it's a
airs.
short it's a Schrodinger Thiccy going on. Are you kind of expecting this January 1st, 2nd reallocation? Is that some hopium we can have going into the new year, or what do you think?
I think it's a good trade idea.
Really?
Thank you.
Look, I don't get it, right? Because
Sweat it.
no,
Sweat it.
no. Okay. Here's my question. So I've heard this tax law selling, like end to end of year. I mean, sure, I get that, but there's no wash sale rule in crypto, right? So if you actually want allocation, can't you just sell and buy back in, lower your cost basis? So why would people just like randomly allocate like January 1st buy? Like, that doesn't really make any sense to me.
I feel like it matters less what the truth is, and it matters what like the average person can like coalesce around. It's like a good meme.
There's nothing else to meme about, right? I mean, that's the only good idea that's around, and that's
New year, new
that's
me
more than
type
enough. It takes so little to move the market right now that this is a sufficient idea.
All right, we're all agreeing that, it doesn't matter what the reality is, it just matters what other people think might be a good idea, and getting enough momentum to break out of what's been a very tight range, and a lot of barting going on.
I think it like very likely could BART also. Because like one trade I was looking for was like when silver pulled back. Like I thought that was a good long. And that ended up happening, but it BARTed like yesterday. So like this could just be like a bigger version of that.
But what's the idea there? Do you think it's like a rotation to crypto, or or like the more speculative money is going to flow back to crypto, or why does silver pulling back mean that it's good for BTC?
I feel like this is something I've noticed a lot. Where like if one asset starts leading very hard, then it actually like sucks away attention and like from all other assets. So like I've noticed this when like one altcoin does particularly well, like at a certain point all the other altcoins just start doing terribly until that altcoin corrects, then everything else sort of like relief rallies. And it's like partly that, and there's partly like a mechanical reason, I think. And I've noticed this when like NASDAQ does super well, like Bitcoin will do poorly actually, and I feel like the same things happen with metals. But that trade wasn't enough to actually sustain anything, even though it did cause like a little micro BART yesterday on Monday.
Are you trading those other assets like silver and these things? Have you kind of expanded out of the crypto universe in terms of what you're trading?
I have not, but a lot of my friends have been. It's been making me very envious. It's like, macro is not that hard.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit easier than the PvP tight ranges we've been trading. I mean, this theme of potentially having good liquidity on chain for metals or RWAs is certainly something that I'm expecting to be a theme for 2026. Any other predictions for 2026? I think we're kind of getting into the part of the segment where we should look forward to what might be happening in the new year.
Yeah, I can go first. So these are loose predictions for next year, but I think it's quite possible Bitcoin dominance hits 70-75%. I think people are still going to be disillusioned with alts, and Bitcoin will suck up more flows than alts. Maybe it'll be led by ETH going down more, which is still my expectation. Which ties into my second prediction, which I think Tom Lee becomes a villain. I think people, a lot of retail, right, bought into the Tom Lee pump. ETH to 49, 5K, whatever that pump was. There's a lot of BitMyBag holders. Tom Lee's going to get a big bonus soon. It's quite possible that the entire Tom Lee pump fades for ETH, and people start hating on him, and he becomes the villain, especially if he gets paid a lot of money, and then maybe BitMine is forced to sell some ETH at some point in the future. Kind of depends on whether MicroStrategy gets delisted, but I think those are my two big predictions. So Bitcoin keeps going. Bitcoin does well. Alts do poorly, and ETH just keeps fading as an asset. The tech is good, but the asset not so good.
All right, Dim, any predictions? What are you seeing coming up?
I have a few. The first one is about crypto and AI, and I'll disagree with. I don't know who was completely against the AI thing, but I'm closer to how Jordy's thinking about it, which is, that crypto and AI kind of transcend market cycles, because in a way you have a persistent technological innovation happening on the AI side, and somehow always someone in crypto is creative enough to tokenize it and make it tradable, and Goat, I think, is the best example of that, right? With agentic tech on Twitter, Goat encapsulated that perfectly. I think it's very reasonable to assume that we see something similar. It might be in robotics, might be in something separate. But I think the way to capitalize on that is you have to keep your eyes open and be ready, not question it. And once you see something like that, just ape. And I think that's going to be the closest thing to retail mania we might have next year. So it's I think it's an interesting one. The second one is just generally around market structure and volatility being the product. So I think 2026 is less about chasing fundamental stories that are priced okay, and more about surviving volatility and kind of striking when things crack. So it's more of a timing year than a trend year. And I'd say the third one, which I guess contrasts what I just said about not chasing fundamentals a little bit, is this idea of forgotten blue chips and getting your hands dirty and getting closer to the teams, becoming a bit more of an activist if things really go bad. I think we will have, because of this apathy that we're experiencing, we will have a few coins where it will make sense for let's say us, like Citrini, to kind of go in and help support in multiple ways, and kind of yes, support founders in a similar way like Vance has done with Sky and Maker. That's kind of like the template I'm thinking about. So these are the three kind of thematics I'm thinking about into 2026.
Nice. How about you, Jordy?
I generally think that we're being forced, because the easy money's obviously gone. There's no more just like dumb bids coming in all the time. I think we're being forced to upgrade the quality of founder decisions. I think the quality of founders in the space has generally been quite low. I've said this before, I compared to some of the AI founders, even though the ones that have shady reputations like Sam Altman, I mean, this guy's like a complete beast when it comes to getting stuff done. And we need more Chad founders, or we need our founders to just be better. And venture is super hard right now. I think even some of the best performing funds, like these even like Sixth Man Ventures, I mean, these guys were so good at finding these gems in the rough, like Pump Fund and all these things. But it's just so hard right now to keep playing that game. Even like the big hits are obviously like not doing well in this kind of market. So I think there's a lot of upgrade that it's being forced upon us when it comes to the quality of founders. I think we'll have better quality because otherwise no one's going to buy the tokens. We'll have more cash flow focus, and I think I'm interested to see like how Santiago's inversion does when it comes to bringing some of these like real companies and tokenizing them and bringing crypto rails. I think that category is interesting. I know there's other people working on that category, and that kind of makes me a little more bullish that we'll get better assets on chain. Obviously, like from Citini's standpoint, we're hoping that the tokenization side and things like Canton and some of these like RWAs that are on Hyperliquid and on Lighter are going to continue to pick up. When you look at the combination of the access and the kind of ease of the technology, it just seems better than the traditional rails. So bullish on that. Yeah, otherwise, I said at the beginning of this year, if you guys remember, like my big tweet in January was that 2025 was going to be traders' paradise, investors' hell. I mean, it definitely has been investors' hell. Like nothing's really like been
At least in
easy
crypto, right?
in crypto, at least. Yeah.
Stocks and gold's
It,
fine.
right. I mean, from a trader standpoint, it's obviously been a lot of opportunities. There's been a lot of dips to buy and a lot of like blow-offs to sell. It's been very difficult though. I don't know like too many traders that have, done exceptionally well managing this volatility. And I think, those of us that are still here who haven't blown up, that's already like a good outcome. Vicky, how about you?
Yeah, that was a good call, Jordy, in 2025. I remember you making it, and I think it turned out to be true with prices where they are. I like how Tyche sort of adopted the MOAS.
The mother of all shorts.
um, yeah. I guess for me, like broadly, I don't really believe in like the 4-year cycle. I feel like just like time-based things have really changed. Like everyone talks about how like these like cycles and loops feel like they are accelerating and they're getting quicker. And I think a lot of the reason for that is just because a lot more eyeballs are on the space and thinking about it and processing information quicker, just in like pretty much every part of life since, I think 2020 was like a big shift in that. And yeah, so I think things just like information just gets processed quicker. Things take like pumps are quicker to like actually like go up, and then it takes a lot shorter time for things to like wash out. So um yeah, I do expect like a washout period where like the fat gets cut, and sort of all like the tourists kind of get tested. But I don't expect that to last like like a year or two like previous cycles. I do think it could happen like the period of like a span of like a quarter or so. um I do think this is like a really interesting period for crypto traders to realize that like a lot of the trading skills they picked up in these markets like actually give them a good amount of edge in all other markets. Like I know so many crypto traders that moved on to like single name equities or like trading metals or just even just like click trading NASDAQ and S&P futures. And I've like dabbled a bit in those, and like a lot of the times like because I always like remember when I was working at like a HFT shop that like like it's impossible to get edge predicting the direction of S&P. Like if you could, then you'd be like a billionaire, trillionaire. But it's like, oh, it's actually like it's not that hard to like, maybe once a month or so, like actually get like a pretty free trade and just like, especially right now when there's like everyone's sort of trading. Like all this capital is being forced out to take risk that like you're the people you're playing against, like dollar weight is actually not that sophisticated. So yeah, like back to like just doubling down on your trader's paradise thing. Like I do think like that might be just a secular trend. Just like people aren't incentivized to work; they're incentivized to manage their capital, and it just makes capital markets like easier to trade sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's so hard to really make predictions on things like, crypto liquidity. I know that one of the major reasons why we were still doing okay at certain periods last year was probably like the Korean bid, which even when the international bid went away, the Korean flows were still strong, and it was like the only bid. Like you could kind of see that up-it listings were really like the only like inflows that were coming in, and that disappeared as soon as they got a better bubble, like a better, I don't know if it's a bubble. I mean, a better Ponzi to play, which was their local stocks, which to echo Citrini's point, stocks have like government support, and in Korea I think like you're not allowed to short sell. Like there's a bunch of like other structural reasons that allow these bubbles to be supported. um there was some hope that like once the Korean stock bubble calmed down that there will be like a rotation back into crypto, but that hasn't materialized yet. So we'll see, but it just goes to show you how like unexpectedly moves happen. I mean, I've been so surprised this year. I think what I thought I knew has been invalidated many times. I mean, did I expect like these Dino coins to start pumping, earlier this year? There was a period where I think it started with XRP, but then it was like Algorand and HBAR and all this stuff, and it just made no sense. But there's like forces that are still out there that have a lot of impact on liquidity. But overall, it's pretty clear to me that most founders in the altcoin space, it's irreversible now. Like there's a breaking change that's not going back. Most of them are either giving up. I mean, we've seen a lot of our venture investments, we're getting the emails now that they've just like run out of capital, and maybe they're taking these like small acqui-hire opportunities now to just sort of like exit. Because, how do you exit a decentralized protocol that's on chain forever, right? And, you need some kind of acquisition or something to do. So a lot of those are coming on. The ones that are like not financially literate, like the founders that were based upon entertainment or metaverse or NFTs or different categories like this, a lot of them are feeling very challenged by the fact that the only thing that's really working is the financial side of crypto. And I do think that ultimately, like, crypto's main role is that it is the financial side. It is ultimately like the fact that these are assets that can the real value of crypto is that the world needs to allocate efficiently resources, and that's such an important thing. Efficient capital allocation is crucial to the world, even more so in the AI era. And insofar as crypto allows a transparent, fair way to allocate resources, it'll have a role, and it will be a financial role. So I'm not too surprised that the non-financial founders that were betting on games or betting on these things, they're finding it hard, and I think that might continue. On the good side, the world is becoming more hyper financialized every year. And so, I think that crypto will continue to be very relevant and more relevant. That's my little hopium before we go to our final segment.
Mm-hmm. I had a question for Thiccy, because I think 2 years ago when we were doing this podcast, I was, or maybe I have adopted the MOAS mindset now. But 2 years ago, I was like buying and staking Celestia at like $20, hoping for airdrops. And I was like, yo, like modular money is the future, man. Like P doesn't matter. But I think, Thiccy, you're like really early to this idea that all these alts are just vapor and shorting is like the real edge in the alpha. So obviously, I think more people have bought into that. I was pretty late to the trend. How has your mindset shifted around crypto? Do you still believe in the MOS mindset that crypto is kind of like rollerblading or roller skating, or whatever you said last time, that it'll fade
A lot
away?
of cryptos will be viewed that way, but like I'm less convicted in it now. I feel like there will always be edge in like shorting crypto, but it's like low sharp and like low capacity and like kind of gay. And I I agree with Dim in that like there will always be a new game that people want to play, that like it's like a new slot machine or a new variant where it's like people don't know the rules as well, that like there's just too much of a financial incentive for someone to create this type of game that people want to gamble on. So like I'm more, and like I think that's where like most of the money gets made, and it's like a more less stressful way to make the money. So like I'm more indexed on that part of the game now, as opposed to like trying to short. It'd be like the janitor and try to like short things that like overshoot. I do think that's like a useful toolkit to have, because it like helps you figure out how to sell. It helps you like read positioning well. And I mean, like selling is half the battle. And I do think like in certain regimes, it's like very useful. But like after it's already moved down, like especially when it's like this, is like very dangerous, I think, to short, because like this is where a lot of times you just get like wrecked as a shorter, and you like give back a year's worth of gains from like an explosive move upwards. So I'm like less convicted into MOAS now.
Oh wow!
So interesting. Thiccy's like entering the MOAS, and Thiccy is like
Reconsidering.
exiting the MOAS.
No, I mean I was 2 years late to the MOAS, so I'm probably gonna get liquidated at some point.
I
need
still
to
remember
adopt
in like
MOAS.
there was like a pre-show for one of the episodes we were doing a couple years ago, and I was like specifically talking to you, Taiki, about why are you like, taking your Celestia and staking it at $20? And I was like actively shorting that chart as you were
I remember that.
talking about it. Oh man,
I did make money on it though, because I got the dime airdrop. But after that, I got absolutely rinsed. Minus 80% on my TIA bags. Never again.
GG.
GG.
Yeah,
GG.
I was the unsophisticated exit liquidity for Jordy and Thiccy back then, but maybe I am still the unsophisticated exit liquidity or the entry liquidity, because I'm shorting into the bottom, and then I'll cover near the highs, and then you guys will sell.
You have a good
It's like a
entry.
repeat.
You have a stop loss. You have a good entry. Like if you lose, you're not going to lose that much.
I hope so.
I'm positioned quite long here, so I'll take the other side. But we'll see what happens into the new year, and if we get this new year pump or not. Guys, let's do a pasta of the week, or I guess a pasta of the year. All right, Taiki, you want to go first?
Yeah, I feel like this pasta encapsulates the year really well. For episode 100, Crypto Bros be like, 2025 will be my year, and then in December, the chill guy is now wrecked guy, homeless. I feel like this was everyone's plan, the guaranteed Q4 pump into complete betrayal, into the October dump.
Man,
good times.
What's Chill Guy trading? Chill Guy, let's see. Okay.
Chill Guy was like this like thesis that you could take a mainstream meme that just happened to be blowing up in traditional media, crypto media, like Web2 media, and make a token out of it, and you get all the influencers to pump it and see what happens. And yeah, I mean, what is it trading at? 10?
It's trading at 16 million, and it got to 525.
Yeah.
And Chill Guy was at the tail end of the meme cycle there, right? I think was it after Peanut? I don't remember.
Yeah, Brad, if you can share my screen, there's like the Chill Guy chart. It's pretty brutal. It is crazy how, if you kind of look back in the past year and think about all the dog shit that you bought, like it really does make you rethink your life sometimes. And yeah, Chill Guy, 16 mil, still pretty impressive actually. But
yeah, look, there's still people that got in earlier.
Yeah.
GG. I mean, the homeless chill guy is definitely a good representative. Dim, you want to go next?
I'll go next. Yeah, so we got news. President Trump signs executive order, 0% capital gains tax on crypto this year. Nobody has money anyway. Nobody has any gains anyway. I don't know if this ever happens, but even if it did this year, it would really not matter. So
wait,
yeah.
Can you play the audio, Brad?
That's it.
This executive order is the fuck around and find out order, also known as the FAFO. This order is for everyone who fucked around and will now find out.
Hold it. This is a good one. Is everybody listening?
This is a good one.
This executive order is the
Oh my God. Oh man, what a year. I have a pasta, which is, one of my favorites from Gort, and he really encapsulated what, a lot of the mottos of this year have been. So let's bring up his day in the life of, wake up, drink coffee with butter. I don't know, that bulletproof coffee is a little bit old, but he gets better. He says, post some shit about the K-shaped economy, 20 minutes sauna with a blood boy, post some shit about how exhausting it is to always be skating to where the puck is going. And then, he's like reminding the blood boy to inject peptides, because remember, your blood is my blood, our blood. So I think like peptides was a theme in 2025. I've talked about peptides, and I guess another prediction is peptides are going to be huge in 2026. So hopefully there'll be some way to play that theme. But I'm very bullish on that. People are waking up to them. Let's see. He says, post a terrible idea and then ask, who's building this? Ignore all responses from people building that. Let's scroll down a bit. There's a few more gems in here. So he says, have dinner with a founder who hasn't found product market fit. You need to pivot. It's time to pivot. No shame in a pivot. Make it more like a casino. So yeah, everyone's trying to make it more like a casino. and ultimately he says charge 2 and 20 and underperform T-bills, and I think that's been for almost every fund in the sector. So GG 2026. Hopefully it's going to be better.
Yeah, I wonder what the average performance was for like a liquid fund this year.
It's down.
It's down.
Yeah, I think down. I don't know, 20, something like that, 25. I've seen funds down 50, more than 50. I've seen a couple close to zero.
Damn.
Yeah,
So there's
on track.
brutal.
there's two like very different types of liquid funds. One is like funds that invest in alts with like a multi-month horizon that are sort of more like your Defiance capital, like you're more fundamental, looking to actually like invest and just invest on the liquid side instead of the VC side. And obviously it's super challenging when every altcoin is down like 80-90%, and like no matter how good you are, you're just not going to do well. And then there's like the more, like, you call them liquid funds, but they're more tactical funds, and they're just going long and short, and they're trying to like play the cycles. And some of those have done well. I mean, there's a few of the standout funds that we talked to that have done pretty well. So yeah, I would say, like, once again, investors hell, traders paradise. Thiccy, what do you got?
Yeah. So I wrote this article, and this guy had like an hilarious post making fun of me for writing it. He was like, you can write, if you're losing a lot of money, maybe you're doing something wrong and should trade less, in a fancy way, as an article with some corny picture like this. And some crypto fellas would quote it with, "This is the greatest thing I've read in a while."
Fire.
Yeah, I do like to see like how much love you get on your writing, Thiccy. I mean, like, I read it and I don't want to like offend, but like I read it, I'm like, yeah, like this is obvious, like this is, I mean, you say it very well, but like I'm not like seeing like some like radical new theory or anything. You just say it very well. And then you got these like boys under like, oh my God, this is so good. Changed my life. And I'm like,
I was like very surprised with how well the last article did. It took me like 30 minutes on a plane to write. For me, I was like writing for myself, but then like, yeah, it just became the most popular thing I've written.
did you get like did you get like, like a reinforcement? Are you gonna give us more stuff?
Like, write more slop. Yeah, of course.
All right. All right.
For the viewers that haven't read it yet, is there like a TLDR of like what the idea of the article was? I guess like if you're not profitable, stop trading. But aside from that,
It's just kind of like how to process when you lose and like get back to your A game, which I think like poker players like are really good at. They just have to like learn very quickly in their career, because you just get like bad beats so often. But like I think in trading, because it's been so, especially crypto trading, because it's been so easy mode, like people don't have as many bad beats they have to deal with. So a lot of them just like get one shot forever.
Yeah, maybe that's why I had to, not learn anything, because I've been bad beated so many times. In fact, I got bad beaten a couple days ago by a certain Thickster that's on the pod right now. He invites me into like a private game. So I click some link. I don't know what fucking website this is. I enter some poker game. I see Taiki there. I don't know.
Yeah,
I see
dude.
some like crypto people there, and then I buy in for 30K. Thiccy's on my right. I have position on him. I think like I'm in a good
Share your
spot.
screen. I sent the hand in the bio if you want to share your screen.
Oh my God. I mean,
Oh.
like, clearly like this guy's like rigging it. I mean, this can't be a fair game.
so we'll give some hand history here. So this is 25.50, right? Stakes with a $10 ante. So unfortunately, we can see the whole cards here, but Stuck Out Sing limps for $50 with 4 or 5 off. Raw also limps. Fried liver limps. Thiccy makes it 610. All right. Jordy calls. That makes sense. Reasonable. And I get.
What is this guy doing? What is Thiccy paid that guy? Thiccy, you paid that guy to do that. Like,
what the fuck is this? 9-8 suited. He
Terrible.
just jams it in
with no fold equity. He jams the 9 high.
Thiccy with the
flats.
smooth call.
Thiccy, how come you didn't? He wanted me in. He didn't like overshove just to kind of clear the field. I don't know, but I'm getting a price. I have position. This is my last hand of the day. I thought I was up already. I was gonna gamble a bit. Call.
I actually didn't want you in, Jordy. I thought like you would not call.
We got the 4 or 5 offsuit calling as well. That's solid.
Four-way.
Solid.
GTO.
Raw. Yeah, Raw going for
GTO
the
move.
quadruple up.
Look at this flop.
Flop
Look at
comes-
this flop. Okay,
Ace king
just
stack.
turn it off. I don't want to see the rest. This is rigged. Obviously, like this is rigged.
Bet, fold, check,
You know,
jam, and obviously.
I mean,
Thiccy's
yeah.
Shit.
You know, I tried to make it look like a bluff. I was actually value betting, and I was value betting the worst hand. He called me so quickly, I knew I was dead. I mean, he like instant
wait.
called. It took him 2 seconds.
We hit 4-5 off. He would have hit the straight.
He would-
Holy
yeah,
shit! No way.
Jordy
Oh
is
my
like,
He had the
god.
nuts. He had the nuts.
He would have won.
Oh.
He knew. He knew.
He would have won.
So Thicky, this is this is fake chips, obviously 75 you know tokens, whatever. But if this was real money, this would have been your biggest pot ever.
yeah, like I haven't played poker since like college, so yeah, the biggest pot I ever played. If it were
Yeah,
real.
just a casual, you know, 10,000 big blinds or however many big blinds this was. So, needless to
It's a
say,
huge
I will continue to be invited to people's private games. So you guys can keep
Yeah.
inviting me, and I'll keep bumping.
Jordy's like the flow blockchain hacker. It's the big fish exclamation point.
Single exclamation point.
Single exclamation point. Yeah, I've been battling Thiccy as well. It's good to be back in the streets.
Cool. All right, guys, let's wrap up here. It's been a year. It's good to have everybody back on for our final episode, and you know, hopefully we'll have exciting stuff to talk about in the new year and see everybody then. Take care, guys. Have a happy new year.
Thanks, guys.